thank you very much, Tim, for having this forum, if you will. And I didn't necessarily come with a prepared statement or anything else. I'm really here just to take questions. Needless to say, I'd like very much to continue to serve as a District 5 supervisor. And as I said, I'm really here more to take questions than anything else. I don't have any prepared statement or anything else.
Well, as I said, this is not a debate. And, but folks, I wish you'd really open up and ask questions of both these groups. Go ahead. Somebody's got to have a question.
If Tom wants to make a statement to get things going, and then we can both stand up for questions. It doesn't make any difference to me. As far as I'm concerned, the format's really informal. It's your call.
Somebody want to go? Hey, Tom, your turn. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Hi, Carol.
Hi. What's happening with the swimming pool?
Interesting. I know there will be during the obviously there are a couple of efforts that are going on. There's a committee that was created under the CAO at the county, and there's certainly discussions going on. But it's well known that I believe, and I don't want to preempt those who are intimately involved, most specifically Brian Wilson and Jim Chapman. But I think Brian pretty much made the Jim made an announcement here at LAFCO, and so. I don't want to suggest that the cat's out of the bag, that there was a public statement made and say it was there. Jim Chapman will introduce, and Brian Wilson will introduce at the city, and Jim Chapman at the county, a proposal to form a JPA between the county and the city, and each one of us put in $200,000 a year for 15 years to pay for the debt that we would have to secure to build the pool, and that's about just what's currently going on.
What about the maintenance of it after that?
The maintenance, the $200,000 a year would be $400,000 a year. You'll have to go to Jim, if you will, or wait for him to unveil it. The proposal will probably come up during unagendized reports. And again, I'm not giving you any information that wasn't made public at our meeting today. And it will probably be put on the agenda for the Board of Supervisors on the 20th to discuss it. I'm assuming that the $200,000 a year would be rolled into the budgetary process, which is ongoing right now. As far as the maintenance goes, Tim, it is envisioned that $400,000 would be for debt service and to backfill what maintenance costs, what annual costs are incurred by the pool over and above the fees that would be charged. So, but again, it's not my proposal, so I'm not privy to a lot of details.
And I'm sure most people here understand to maintain a public pool facility is ghastly expensive.
They're more being closed than open right now. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I'm aware of that. But in particular, my personal opinion, I think this area surely needs one. We have one up in Beaver, and the other one is at the base. So
that's correct.
Hey, Jack, what are the locations that you guys are considering?
I'm not, again, with the so-called, may I call it the Chapman proposal or Chapman-Wilson proposal. I'll give them both credit. I don't know if they will have any specific locations, Tom. Certainly, one of the ones is the existing pool site. Tearing it down. We've had estimates that have ranged from maybe a low of $200,000 to a high of $350,000 or $400,000, and that would depend on a really more detailed analysis of the hazardous material that may be involved, although it doesn't seem to be overwhelming. There was some suggestion that Sierra Pacific may donate part of the old mill site near Riverside Park. The Sierra Road project that the city's involved in, putting it out on Modoc Street, all of which would try to use geothermal, obviously, to help on the heating during the winter. I'm trying to think of any of the other sites. We talked about the college. We've talked about Deal and Davy over near
and the college.
Right, and the college. The Deal and Davy site to correspond to Memorial Park and the high school. And the high school would build either a bridge or a tunnel under the road to use it. So those are some of the sites.
And have you guys considered next to the gym at the college?
You might know more. You might know more about that than I do.
I just think it's a great idea with the co-use of facilities.
Yeah.
And
I think we would consider any site. I don't think that the site has been specifically chosen. Whatever site offered, I think the best financial opportunity of success would be the one right here.
any other questions for Jack at this point? Tom, go ahead. Go ahead.
John.
Hi.
Would you please identify yourself when you ask?
Yeah,
the
John
question?
Everett, Furlong.
Thanks, John.
I have a question on our VFW at Furlong.
Yes.
And people have asked me why, one of the reasons why I'd like to see a recall, and one reason why I helped with the recall, and that's because of me and you conversation over Felix Flores and Bob Herrick, and you said that you were going to back to the VFW on our utilities and stuff. And when it came to the vote, and I asked you twice, you said you'd back it. When it came to vote, you did not back it. And then I felt like after I approached you after a town hall meeting in Furlong,
Yes.
privately, when we talked, that's when you offered me for the VFW, not me personally, the VFW $1,000. And I felt like after you knew
That would have been out of the discretionary fund. That wasn't
Right.
personal. That
I
wasn't.
know, I'll explain it. Is that discretionary funds and how I feel the way the discretionary fund was used, instead of the VFW getting $8,000 for utilities, being how the LRA had paid for every other corporation or building, or person out there except for the VFW. We asked for it, and Dally said it'd make us whole, and he said he would also vote in favor of us being whole because of the money it was spent. And it ended up that after I was told yes by two people, and I knew that Mr. Chapman voted no because that's what he does.
Sure.
And I had no problem with that because I thought I had 4 people that would vote yes for it. So I didn't show up, and it was voted no against us. And then I felt like the discretionary funding was used to buy us off. And I just,
I'm sorry.
but that's how I felt, because, and don't get me wrong, the VFW appreciated $1,000, but we much more appreciate the $8,000 we spent out of our pocket to keep that building going when it wasn't our building, and actually became they owned the building.
Right.
And so that's the reason why, personal reason, because I was commander of VFW, and that's why it upset me so much. And that's why I went with the recall, other than a major fact that I felt that we had been not blessed out there too well with the stuff, because there was, not just you, Jack, but the whole board, okay, but you being our leader, us not getting housing put in out there when we could have had it done, because of the way it was written up, that we could almost gave somebody that was good, like the people out of Sacramento that everybody said was good. We could have gave them the property like Title 8 or something and had them build for us and gave them a chance to keep the housing prices down. And it never happened. We missed many opportunities out there. And it's just, I feel like we didn't get a fair shake when there was an opportunity to have a fair shake. And then the last thing was the VFW, and that's why, it's not a personal thing with me, okay, because I was playing with VFW, but it became, the only thing that became personal at the end was because I took you at your word, and you helped me.
Thank you, John, for that comment, but let's give Jack a chance to respond.
Well, I don't know exactly where to start. I mean, on the VFW, obviously the ownership on that, as you well know, you know better than I do, the ownership was really convoluted all through the whole thing. And yes, you probably should have got it from day one and been carrying that building from day one. It didn't happen, and we could go through a long list of individuals who were involved in the transfer of some of the properties down there, and why it didn't happen. I mean, Tom knows about it too. He went through it too. So on that note, I think, our process of dealing with the VFW was atrocious.
I do thank you for the support you did give us. Okay, you did give us some support. and I appreciate that. Okay, but the big thing is when we proved everything in writing, everything that went on, and I was told by my supervisor that I had that vote, and my supervisor didn't vote yes again. And that's, you know, I went to bed that night thinking, well, I don't have to worry about it. You know, Jack's got my back. Well, Jack didn't have my back in the end, and that's why I'm afraid.
Do you want to approach the housing at her law? I mean, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, no,
show off. I mean, it's up.
So I think that point's been covered.
Yeah.
The housing.
No,
Okay.
let's move on to the housing.
Well, the housing issue, you know, I think John's referring to, excuse me, Homes by Town, TOWNE, and they're out of Roseville, and they also are developers they're a private corporation, and they're out of Minneapolis, and they've got developments in Reno and up and down the North State. And there were a couple of issues. We were quite willing, again, I shouldn't say quite willing. Selling the property at a profit was not the issue. It never was. We were quite willing to get the property into private hands if we could find a way, one, to do it and get something going. There were a couple of issues on the housing. And of course, one is the market. What happened, and I didn't give anybody the numbers, I don't have them off the top of my head, but in fact, during the time that the town was in negotiation, kind of in a final negotiation, there were two issues. One, sewer and water. We could not hook up to the existing sewer system with any new structure. We could also not hook up to the existing water system, both of which were operated by the Sierra Army Depot. We could not hook up to the existing water system with any new structure. So we needed a new sewer system and a new water system. Through Herlong Public Utility District, they got us a new water system. It's great water, we hooked up all the buildings to it. The sewer or wastewater treatment facility for the cantonment area in the town of Herlong is pretty well funded now. It's in the process of being done. But again, until you have that, you actually cannot put a new building, as far as I know, on the cantonment area. Now, Home by Town had developed an agreement with the Army whereby they were going to slip line the existing pipe for a temporary time period until the permanent system came in. And that was going to cost about $500,000. Well, you could extrapolate the $500,000 against whatever number of homes you may have wanted to attach to that. There was a design for 120 homes at one point in time, but they were only going to start with about 10. But then the market fell apart, and an existing home in Cold Springs, again, those who live closer to Cold Springs would know better than I, an existing home for 2,200, 2,300 square feet during the depths of the real estate market for somewhere in the area of 175,000 to 225,000, depending on condition, location, and stuff like that. And town couldn't build one for less than 190, and that did not include the infrastructure. So that was where the homes went. I think it was an economic reaction.
On the water and sewer, John Everett again. On the water and sewer, the county made up a book, which I refer to as a Bible. It's a book that costs $100,000 or more to put together, to assemble. And it was the rules to go by for restructuring.
The reuse plan?
Yeah, reuse plan to restructure. In that book, which I read essentially, the first person or company, I should say, that comes forward and is reputable, there was a clause in there that said that you give, like I said, the land for free or a cheaper rate. Also, there was a clause in there on the first people to do it, but there was money for water and sewer, which made that a prime place to be. And with town, we're going to deal with the government to do that. The $500,000 shouldn't have been an issue, being how there was grant money.
That wouldn't have been great. I don't mean to disagree, John, but that was going to have to be off the development. But you're right. Had the infrastructure been there from Herlong Public Utility District, there would have been grant money to attach to that.
Right.
But the slip line was, we were trying to get it covered somehow with a grant, and that was not doable as far as I can.
Do we have any, Steve in the back? Steve Pizzullo.
Jack, I guess you know I'm pretty interested in the Hurlong area.
So I understand.
And there's a lot of problems out there with roads and all those things. If I'm the successful proposer on this proposal, what are you going to do to help or to support development by me and my partners in that area? What's your philosophy and what are you going to do for us?
Can you just expand on that? Nobody else knows what your plan is.
Hurlong is I guess the reuse authority is selling property, and we're the high bidder at this point. We've got some ideas on what we want to do with it. We haven't had any input from the county up to this point. I think it's on the county closed session tomorrow.
That's great.
And there's a lot of potential there, and we see a lot of things we could do.
I agree.
But I want to know what the county's going to, if they're going to support it, if they're going to let us run through the gamut like they did to Iron Mountain and try to run us out of town. They can put a lot of blocks up. What's your philosophy? Your district, what are you going to do to help?
Steve, I'll do anything I can to help you. Now, I know that's an open-ended answer to your question. But specifically, I have the same vision for Hurlong that I had when I first was elected back in 2002, and it's probably the same vision that my predecessor had. I see great potential down there. I see the location of Reno. We know that they were proposing an arterial from the Winnemucca Ranch over to Constantia. There was going to be all kinds of things happening on the Nevada side, which was going to complement Hurlong and bring Hurlong even a little closer. I don't want to say away from Susanville, but a little closer to that metropolitan area. And that metropolitan area was growing and probably is growing now. Make a long story short, as far as what the county is going to do, you know, I would hope that the county, and I would support streamlining any of the permitting processes, anything we can do to make a success down there. I think that they spend probably, I don't know, Tom would know the numbers better than I would, probably $21 million down there in infrastructure to make that community grow. That's what was
20.8.
necessary. Pardon me?
20.8.
Close to 21. So, we'll let $200,000 is, well, I shouldn't mention $200,000, that's Jim's pool, so. But anyway, $200,000 is significant. But yeah, about $21 million has been put in the ground here. More work has been done in the ground in Hurlong than anywhere else in Lassen County. There's more, I've said this many, many times, there's more commerce in and outside the Sierra Army Depot, and you know this because you put in the proposal, more business going in and out of Sierra Army Depot than all the rest of Lassen County combined by a factor of 3 or 4. It's fantastic. And I think our challenges continue to be economic down there, and be happy to support you in any way I can. You come up with some ideas and bring them to me, and I'll be happy to support it.
Would you be willing to change like the streets where they're not dedicated to the
The streets are a difficult issue because some of them and you're right, they are not in the county maintained system. So the county is not responsible for maintaining the streets. Now, I tried to get them there, my predecessor tried to get them there, but as many know, Lassen County has, if you will, they have a policy not to take any new roads into the county maintained system. They took in Susanville Road, which went into the depot. They took that. They took in Travis Lane out here. I can't remember exactly what the circumstances are. We don't take roads into the county maintained system. It costs too much money.
Would you be willing to push to put new
Yeah,
roads into
and I'd be willing to help you try and solve the road issue with the Susanville Indian Rancheria and Circo and DIA to be specific. The roads are kind of funny the way they're owned down there, if you will. Yeah, absolutely, especially if we start to see something bringing in some tax revenue, and I would grant you roads are different than the general fund. We know that, but all in all, it's the big picture. And if we could see some success down there, I would definitely support keeping the roads in the county. So that's going to be an uphill point.
You got a gentleman standing up here, has a question.
Yep.
My name's Larry Johnson. I'm the bidder just below this gentleman.
Oh, you know the property
I
well.
want to know if you're going to let the tax man kill us both with his overassessment. I bought my house across from Tom's to find out.
Right. Have you appealed?
I paid. Oh yeah, I appealed and I won. Then I bought my daughter a house in West Patton Village. She couldn't appeal. She paid $10,000 for the house, and it's worth $26,500 according to the tax man.
According to the assessor.
That's the assessor is assessed it for that, and
The
that's
tax
what
man
she
taxes you, but the assessor
That's
tells you what it's worth.
That's right. Well, Prop 13 says on an open HUD sale, which is what it was, handled by Connie Jenkins, you can only assess it at what she pays. How come it's 3 times? A young girl with a minimum income cannot fight the county, and she gets taxed triple.
Well, it's the first time I heard of it.
And what happens to me if I get it instead of this gentleman, because there's only a few dollars difference. It's all
That's
about
correct.
the plans. The industrial park turns into, like the assessor says, every acre in Lassen County is worth $10,000. That's 272 acres or $2,720,000 in taxes. Deal's dead. Sagebrush.
Well, I can't answer the question about your daughter. I'm sorry about that. If you
Are
want, I
you
can-
going to allow something like
You
that to
haven't looked
happen
into it.
on this deal that we're working on?
Am I going to allow something
Yes.
like?
Would you intervene if the assessor says, oh, well, we're rich, county. Look at all this ground. It's worth millions. It's a gold
I
mine.
guess to cut it to the chase, is that the public property is not getting assessed for anything.
Right.
So if
Zero.
if a private person buys it, or whatever.
Are they
amount
going
of
to get
money,
it for the bid price?
Are they gonna-
And they spread this
You know, that's
out?
an interesting question, and that's a question we have to take up with the assessor. and the
Because
tax
I'm
collector.
sure he feels the same way. Tax
Well,
on 2.7
He's also a
million.
CPA. He may know the answer already, and I don't.
I've already talked to the assessor. It's going to be a.
Okay, we're on the
It's
time
gonna be
constraint here,
up.
folks. I think it's time to give Tom Hammond a chance to say something. Thank you.
Well, I too am like John, Jack. This is not a personal issue. This is a different vision issue. I did prepare a statement.
Excuse my back.
And I'd like to read it to everybody here. Lassen County has the good fortune of millions of dollars in payroll being generated each month from government jobs. The county leadership has shown for the past decade its unwillingness to invest in the community to attract new residents and grow our tax base. Over a decade after the Roosevelt pool closure, our community, specifically our youth, still have no community pool. The realities of the stagnant growth is a budget shortfall. This year, negative growth and budget deficit, simply unacceptable. And without a change in county leadership, there's no reason to believe anything will change. Lost millions in furlong, ignoring the problem and keeping staff on payroll for too long, ignoring the reality of the LRA failure, was a death knell for Herlong. Not capitalizing on the potential for economic growth in Herlong, county is blessed with a base in the federal prison, which has done zero to improve the area. That area is the one area in Lassen County that is going to be a revenue base for our county. I don't see any part of this county that will even come close to equaling that. We haven't done anything. We haven't supported the growth there. It's a disaster. That's why I got interested in this. It's time for a different vision. There's been an obvious lack of economic growth in District 5, either by design or not. These facts remain and are unacceptable and tragic. We have the 4 largest employers in our district. We don't have a slice into Susanville. We're the only district that doesn't have a part of Susanville. And I hear these terms like infill. That's from the Economic Development Council or group. Well, this infill is not going to help District 5. You know, the money's coming from District 5. The payroll is coming from District 5. When are we going to utilize, when are we going to take advantage of these guys? We're just stagnant. We're just stagnant. We've got to come up with some new ideas. I'm pro-ag, Jack. You know that. I don't want to develop anybody's alfalfa or anything like that. Not even close. Not even close. But I sure would like to see some development. Anybody have any questions for me? Paul?
I have a question regarding development in Herlong, and I seem to remember you being very much in favor of building a prison out there.
Yeah.
And during the build-up to that, many people said, you know, all those employees are going to go live in Reno. And actually, that is what happened.
Yeah.
And I think the new vision that we have is maybe we shouldn't try and base our economy on the prison industry, because it was a total, abject failure in Hurlock. It drove down property values. It did not raise them.
Can I speak to
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Let's hear what you have to say.
You couldn't split a lot and develop anything, because I personally tried to build homes there because there was no fire department. We knew 5 years before they were coming, Paul, that they were going to put a shovel in the ground. We knew that 5 years before. Why couldn't we have streamlined the process? I mean, that's not ag land there, Paul. That's sagebrush. And we could have built a nice community there, but it was impossible. You couldn't split any lots. You couldn't develop anything. How do you expect those guys, they want the schools to be good. The schools are in horrific shape.
It
The
needs a
enrollment is-
population base, and
the
the
enrollment's
population
down,
base
Paul.
does
The
not want to
enrollment's-
live next to a prison, basically.
If you worked there? Okay.
That's true.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you for that, Paul. Yes, sir.
Well, I just want to say that it's not an abject failure only because of the fact that the assistant warden, the last I spoke to him, which could be different now, lives in your community, chose to live in your community. Is that, you would not have a sewer system nor a fresh water system if it wasn't for the people fighting for that prison. I'm retired. I have nothing to do with the prison systems, okay, but I'm very familiar with water and sewer at Sierra Alamo Depot. Very familiar. The county, when you voted for it, took acres and acres of government land under the condition they couldn't touch it, they can't dig on it, they can't spit on it, and they can't fly over it. You know? The only people that were so happy to see that happen were the federal government. I think they're still giving high fives down through the Pentagon that we gave away this contaminated dirt to Lassen County. Would you, in a vote today, take any more property from the federal government today?
No.
Would you today? I know it's not a debate. I just need those two answers if you don't mind, sir.
No, that's fine, Jack.
No, I wouldn't take any more
It's up to you.
government.
Thank you for that. Now,
You see-
I had a couple other questions here. Somebody had their hand raised.
So I know you're on the board of Lassen College and you're on the board of Plumas Electric Co-op. So
Yes.
how do you see that being on both of those boards would give you, let's say, a different perspective, a new perspective compared to the prior board members?
Well,
Perspective to economic growth in Lassen County.
well, what I see is, on the college side of things, is our FTES, as Dr. Hall will tell you this, we're struggling for students. And we look around at all the schools in the outlying districts, all the K through 12s, they're all hurting. And it's enrollment based. We don't have the students to fund the apportionment for these schools. And so they're struggling. All the schools are struggling, and I just hate to see it. We need to do something to get these schools up and going, and it's revenue. It's a revenue-based answer. And unless we open up and start maybe amending this general plan to where you can develop stuff. I'm not talking about